Today, we're talking about one of the most painful and often misunderstood forms of narcissistic abuse when it comes from a parent. Now, this isn't a story I lived as a child, but I have felt it through Annie. As many of you know, Annie is the heart of the novel Undercurrent, and through Annie's story, I've had the chance to speak truths that are too often left in silence. And this one, narcissistic abuse from a parent, is a silence that too many carry. If you're listening and this is your reality, I want to begin by saying, I see you. I may not have lived this in my own childhood, but I understand the horrors of it. Annie didn't just survive a narcissistic marriage. She witnessed how that same narcissism showed up in the way her husband parented their daughter, Bella. From the very beginning, he didn't want to share Annie's time with the baby. He saw Bella not as a child to cherish, but as a threat to his control, and later as a pawn in his emotional games. He used the child's confusion or needs to get reactions from Annie. And while he may have shown kindness in public, and yes, Annie believed he loved his daughter in his own limited way, he often looked right through her at home. His affection was conditional, and when Annie finally left the marital home with Bella, moving into a tiny one-bedroom apartment, he didn't offer the family house for their daughter's sake. He let them go, knowing that they would struggle financially and that the space would be so cramped for them, while he remained in the house paying only the minimum child support required. Why? Because if he left the home, he might be seen as the bad guy. By staying, he could spin an entirely different story. He could say that Annie was the one who took the child and broke up the family home. Once again, it wasn't what Bella needed. It was about how he could maintain control and manage appearances. So while I personally didn't live this as a child, I understand the dynamics through Annie's story, and I've seen the damage that it causes. Narcissistic parents don't just damage a child's self-esteem. They distort the child's entire framework for understanding safety and self-worth. For many, the abuse didn't come in the form of visible bruises. It came as cold silence, harsh words, backhanded compliments, or that constant feeling that love had to be earned and could be taken away at any moment. Children of narcissistic abuse often grow up feeling invisible, or worse, like their feelings were too much, their needs a burden. Some were made to feel like the scapegoat, blamed for everything, shamed for being different maybe, or targeted simply for shining too brightly. Others were the golden child, idealized and put on a pedestal, but only as long as they served the narcissistic parent's image and made the narcissist look good. And here's the unbearable part. No matter how hard the child tried, the love they needed never came in a consistent, safe way. Instead, it was more transactional, conditional, and often weaponized. And what does that do to a child? What it continues to do well into adulthood, it's really hard to describe. You might carry a constant sense of being too much or not enough, sometimes both in the same breath. You may still find yourself scanning for approval, bracing for criticism, or feeling guilty for setting even the smallest boundary. The grief is so real. Not just grief for the relationship, but grief for the loss that you should have had, for the safety that you never got to feel, and for the version of you that might have flourished under gentleness instead of control. But here's what I want to say. What happened to you was not your fault. You were a child. You didn't fail to be lovable. They failed to love you the way a parent should. And if you're now trying to reparent yourself, learning to trust your own voice, your own needs, your own feelings, you're not behind. You are brave. You are breaking a cycle that may have gone unchallenged. If this resonates with you, I invite you to share your story in the comments or simply write, "I am Annie," because Annie isn't just a character in a book. Annie is anyone who has ever had to survive what should have been safe. Annie is anyone who has had to rebuild from the ground up. For those of you new to this podcast, I'm Kyle Hackley, attorney and author of Undercurrent, the story about Annie, the young woman who found the courage to break free from her narcissistic marriage. I want to remind you that Annie isn't just one person. Annie is anyone who has ever had to experience narcissistic abuse. It's because of Annie that I feel I know you, that I can speak to you the way I do. She suffered all the things that we talk about here, and her story, the courage she found, the healing she fought for, is the reason this podcast exists. Until next time, I want you to know that you are stronger than you ever knew. And I want you to be tenacious and never give up on what's important to you. And I want to thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for always showing up. I want you to know that I appreciate you. Thank you again, and bye for now.